2 o'clock this morning, a missile hit an American tanker docked in Bahrain. 1 worker is dead. 2 more are injured. The ship is on fire, and that is not even the biggest story today. Because as of midnight this Thursday, 7 of the world's largest marine insurers are cancelling war risk coverage for every ship in the Persian Gulf, not raising the price, not adding conditions, cancelling. Gone. No coverage. No ship moves without insurance, which means if nothing changes in the next 72 hours, the Strait of Hormuz does not need to be closed by Iran. The insurance industry will close it for them. This is day 3 of us and Israeli strikes against Iran, and global shipping just entered emergency mode. Here is everything you need to know right now. The ship that was hit is the Stenna Imperative. American flagged, managed by Crowley Maritime, part of a 10-ship tanker security program the US government set up specifically to have vessels available for military use in wartime. It was docked in a Bahrain shipyard for repairs when 2 aerial impacts struck the vessel just after 2 a.m. local time. The fire has been extinguished. The mariners on board are reported safe. But 1 shipyard worker is dead and 2 others are injured. This ship is not just any tanker. You may remember it from a few weeks ago, when it was harassed by Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps while transiting the Strait of Hormuz. The US Navy scrambled aircraft and a destroyer to escort it through. That was February 3rd. Less than a month later, the same ship is sitting in a Bahrain shipyard and Iran just put 2 missiles into it. The message being sent here is clear. Nowhere in the Persian Gulf is safe. Now let's talk about the insurance situation, because this is the story that will actually determine what happens to global shipping over the next week. 7 out of 12 members of the International Group of Protection and Indemnity Clubs have announced they are cancelling war risk coverage effective midnight London time, March 5th. These clubs are not small operators. Together, the international group covers approximately 90% of the world's ocean-going tonnage. The clubs pulling coverage include Guard, North Standard, Steamship Mutual, the Swedish Club, the London P&I Club, the American Club, and Skuld. Skuld says it is working on a buyback option to reinstate cover at a higher premium. That is the key line. They are not walking away forever. They are pulling the existing cheap coverage and coming back with a much higher price tag. But here is the problem. Between now and March 5th, there is a window where ships either get new war risk coverage at whatever the new rate is, or they sit. And right now, nobody knows what that new rate will be. During the 1980s, tanker war risk insurance hit 10% of vessel value. At that level, the insurance premium for a single voyage costs more than the revenue from the cargo. Ships stop sailing not because they are sunk, but because the math stops working. What makes this situation even more unusual is this. Back in the tanker war, the insurance escalation happened gradually over 8 years as attacks slowly increased. This time, the conflict started in a single day. A deliberate coordinated strike by the US and Israel on February 28th. The P&I clubs were caught completely off guard. There was no coordination between the British government and the insurance industry before the strikes happened. And now those clubs are scrambling to figure out what coverage even looks like in a war zone that appeared overnight. That scramble is what you are seeing right now in the market. Now let's look at what the strait itself is doing. On a normal day, 138 vessels transit the Strait of Hormuz in a 24-hour period. As of March 1st, that number had dropped to 110, and it is expected to fall further today. Right now on Vessel Finder you can see exactly what that looks like. The narrow corridor between Iran and Oman is sparse. The red tanker dots that normally flow steadily through that 21-mile gap are clustering on both sides. Anchored, waiting. There are large groups of loaded tankers sitting outside the strait on the Gulf of Oman's side, unable to get insurance to proceed. There are tankers inside the Persian Gulf loaded and ready to leave that cannot get coverage to transit out. 150 ships are stranded, right now, today, and this matters beyond just the ships themselves. Iraq needs those ships moving to sell its oil. Kuwait needs them. Saudi Arabia, the UAE. Every Gulf state that runs on oil revenue is watching this situation with extreme concern because their income stops when the ships stop. Iran pumped out 13 vessels carrying 26 million barrels of crude in the week before the strikes. Normally, they send 5 to 6 vessels carrying 10 to 20 million barrels per week. They knew what was coming. They front-loaded their exports before the bombs fell. In 2025, Iran made $30 billion from sanctioned oil. 251 vessels loaded Iranian oil last year. 86% of those ships were sanctioned. 77% spoofed their location. 72% turned off their AI's beacons entirely. Iran was running a sophisticated shadow fleet operation at massive scale, and the strike has now put all of that at risk. The Joint Maritime Information Center has raised the maritime risk level for the region to critical. Their highest level. They moved it up from severe to critical after confirmed missile and drone attacks against multiple vessels. 3 ships have been hit so far. The Skylight, a small tanker involved in fuel transfers near the strait. The MKDVAM, a large crude carrier hit in the Gulf of Oman, where a drone struck the engine room and killed 1 crew member. And now the Stenna Imperative in Bahrain. Their assessment going forward is stark. Aerial threats from missiles and drones will not change. All merchant vessels, regardless of flag or nationality, are at risk. GPS spoofing and electronic interference is severe throughout the region. Do not rely on electronic navigation. And the biggest wildcard they flagged, mining. If Iran starts mining the Strait of Hormuz, that changes everything. That is the escalation nobody wants to see. Oil prices jumped 9% on Monday in a single session. That is the largest single-day move in years. You will feel that at the fuel pump within days. South Korean refineries are already calling emergency meetings. Japan has suspended underwriting of war risk policies across Iran, Israel, and neighboring countries. The ripple is spreading fast. So what happens next? Here is the realistic picture. The strait is not formally closed. Iran has not declared a legal closure, and under international maritime law they cannot. But the operational reality right now is that the insurance industry is doing what Iran could not do legally. It is stopping the ships. However, and this is important, the ships cannot stay stopped for long. Sitting around Singapore and off the coast of Malaysia right now are hundreds of tankers fully loaded with oil waiting for orders. Analysts estimate 100 to 200 million barrels of oil afloat in storage. That buffer buys the market time, not weeks, days. By the end of this week, the prediction is that ships will start moving again. New war risk coverage will be issued at much higher premiums. Shipping companies will coordinate and transit in groups through the strait together. There will be a day, probably soon, where a convoy of tankers bolts through simultaneously, and the strait reopens not because the war ended, but because the money demands it. The spice has to flow. It always does. But between now and that day, every hour that 150 ships sit stranded on either side of a 21-mile gap is an hour that oil markets spike, insurance premiums climb, and the cost of everything that moves in a container gets more expensive. The Strait of Hormuz has never fully closed in modern history. Not in 8 years of the tanker war, not during the Houthi campaign. History says it will not close now. But a U.S. tanker is on fire in Bahrain this morning. 1 person is dead, and the world's biggest insurers just started a 72-hour countdown. We are watching every number. We will update you the moment the ships start moving. If this video kept you ahead of the story, hit the like button right now. This situation is moving fast, and YouTube needs to know this content matters, so it can reach more people who need to understand what is happening. Subscribe and hit the bell. We are updating this story as it develops, and you do not want to miss the next one. Drop a comment below. Do you think ships start moving through the strait by the end of this week, or does this escalate further? Tell us what you think. We will see you on the next update.